Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. Let me check the audio first. Okay, sounds good. All right. Hello, Regina. Thank you for coming. This is the live streaming where I talk about Sashiko while doing the Sashiko stitching. This is not a lecture or tutorials or webinars, so I'm not going to be answering any questions regarding the techniques that I have to stop stitching, but I am happy to answer the questions regarding to the cultures or other stories that I can stitch and talk. So if you have a question about the Sashiko, please leave the comments or chat section. I will answer those while doing the Sashiko stitching. And there are few announcements, which is, as always, the same announcement, but let me make a few announcements. The QuiltCon is coming in 2 weeks. By the way, my throat is not the best. It's not really the best yet, so I may have to stop this live streaming a little bit earlier than usual. And I'm sorry if my voice is a little kind of rough for that matter. So yeah, the QuiltCon is coming in 2 weeks. So I can do the live streaming next week, but after that, 2 weeks from now, I will be in Phoenix, so I won't be able to do the live streaming. Instead, I may be able to share some of the pictures or even like a live streaming on the Instagram. Usually I do that in Japanese, so it might not be the best suitable for this audience, but that's the plan. I will be in Phoenix and I will do something there between teaching or even after teaching. And this is my third, teaching wise, I am getting ready and I'm, confident that what I can do. But for the lecture, I am very much practicing and trying to make my third lecture, and it will be something very unique. I have not probably shared my personal stories that much, but the lecture itself will be about why Sashiko, like why me and why Sashiko. So, and that's going to be the kind of answer, my answer to the question why Sashiko from the Japanese aesthetics purpose. Not a purpose, perspective. So that might be a good. I don't know if it's going to be the great addition to your quilting, but if you like stitching, I hope that those 45 minutes will be the moment for you to think about, to approach your stitching from different angle. So that's that. The QuiltCon is there. And I do have the Sashiko Japan Retreat 2025 planned. At this moment, I'm waiting for the reply from those who received the invitations. And toward the end of the February, I should be able to open the registration if there's a space left. If not, I will open the waiting list for the next year or so. And yes, another workshop is coming. In-person workshop is coming in 2025, and I made a list of those, so please check that out. And finally, I made a web page summarizing pretty much everything I talk about. Instagram, YouTube, workshops, and stuff like that. So that's also on the description area. So if you are interested in what I'm doing, please take a look at that. Okay. So you won't be doing any more live streaming. I am going to be doing the live streaming next week, but not after that. And then I will come back again on the Thursday. So I will just skip one live streaming on probably 20th. So February 20, I am not going to do the live streaming. Okay, I will switch the camera. Yup. Ooh, What was I doing? Just a second, okay? It's not bright enough. Hello, hello, hello. Temporarily break, just 1 week break, just a day, just one day. I don't do the live streaming when I go for the business trip, so that week I will not do the live streaming. There we go. Whoosh. Yeah, my brain is pretty occupied with the lecture contents. I still cannot believe that I am doing the lecture in English. I mean, it's kind of. I still don't believe that I'm doing it. I mean, I still don't believe that I'm speaking English right now. But expressing my message in English was something I really didn't imagine when I was a child. But I'm focusing on the word aesthetics. And I cannot say that word. Aesthetics is defined as it's a set of principles to describe one's sense of beauty. So we have our set of principles to understand or to observe, to kind of appreciate what is the beauty. And naturally, because the principle can change over culture, the aesthetic itself is very more like personal, I guess. And it's greatly influenced by the culture we grew up. So I would say that there are a big difference between the Western aesthetics and the Japanese aesthetics. And that's another reason that I am speaking up about Sashiko. And the understanding of Sashiko from Western aesthetic is not wrong. Don't get me wrong again. It's not wrong, but again, that's only looking at Sashiko from the side that Western people feel very comfortable with, like the set of principles that they can feel beautiful or they can feel comfortable. And there are another side of that story, and that another side is the aesthetics that I haven't, not I, we have not successfully introduced. And once, I think it is my biggest goal. Throughout my activities, throughout my journey of sharing what Sashiko is, this is the goal. Once I make myself possible to explain or describe the aesthetics of Japanese Sashiko so clearly and with details, which is equivalent of me explaining Japanese aesthetic itself. Sorry. That would be the goal of my journey, and it's pretty challenging. I don't know if I can do that, but in another word, without that, I will not be able to explain the whole picture. So I think the first thing is to acknowledge that there are differences in even aesthetic too. one's aesthetic can be different from another's. So if one find it beautiful, another people may find it not beautiful. And there are reasons behind that, and it can be, of course, personal preference. At the same time, that can be culturally formed. So that is challenging, and that's gonna be probably very personal. But without sharing the personal stories, explaining the culture itself is also impossible. So I think I'm trying to do something very, very, very big. I did not expect to start this kind of big journey, but it may be kind of vice versa. It might be like opposite. I depend on Japanese culture to explain what Sashiko is. And that's how I started this live streaming or Instagram and everything. So I use my understanding of Japanese culture to explain what Sashiko is. At the same time, though, in fact, what I have to approach to is using Sashiko to explain what Japanese culture is. So Sashiko will probably teach us what Japanese culture is. So it's like a opposite, right? Instead of using Japanese culture to explain what Sashiko is, I use Sashiko to explain what Japanese culture is like. So that's gonna be the big transition in this year. And I hope that I can do both. Sorry. Like, I sometimes say that Sashiko is not art, right? Sashiko is not the form of art. And this is the discussion I'm not gonna, dive into, because first we have to define what art is for each, for everybody. And and I know that we will not come to the agreement for this. But there are reasons that I do not consider Sashiko as the art, and that's kind of based on the aesthetics that I have too. But I understand that from the Western aesthetics, Sashiko is the art. So I understand both. But I just don't want Sashiko to be just an art. It can be art, but it's not more. It's just less than that. I don't want them to kind of romanticize it that much. The combination of aesthetics from two or more cultures can create a new aesthetics. I have two examples across the street from my apartment. Yes, so that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of learning something new, right? So when it is translated or introduced in English, that's one biggest challenge we have. It's a language barrier. Because of the ChatGPT and the AI, we will get better translation, but the translation itself will not translate all the cultural background or behavioral things. So it will get closer, but it's not gonna be, completely. It's not gonna be complete. So the first step is to acknowledge that there are differences, and probably listen to the other side of the story. And that's my work, that's my job, to bring those voices on the surface, which is not easy at all, but that's what I have to do. Yeah, I will probably find many, not a many. I'm pretty curious how many pieces of quilting apply Sashiko in this coming QuiltCon. Last year there were about 5 or 6 quilt that kind of said that inspired or used Sashiko technique and those. And again, I don't have problem with that. I have problem when they kind of teach what Sashiko is without understanding what Sashiko really is. But in the QuiltCon, that's going to be a very good indication of how the trend is influencing the kind of the industry, right? The industry. And there's no difference. I mean, it's it's kind of creepy, but there's no difference between quilting and Sashiko from stitchery perspective. There are many differences from technical and style perspective, but after all, it's the same idea of stitching. So it's just different name, different culture, different background. So mixing itself is not that difficult, technically speaking, but it is really difficult because we are different. It's like same as mixing the two cultures into one house. It's not easy because of the common sense. Common sense, when we have a different common sense, it's really difficult to live together. And principle is really strongly related to the common sense. So the aesthetics comes from the common sense as well. And that's why it's so challenging. And that's why I have to keep doing that. Well, thank God that my throat is getting better little by little. Last week was pretty bad. I had to, my voice is pretty bad. And again, it's not good today. Sorry. The virus doesn't transmit from the mic or screen. I think. But with this pace, I should be fully recovered when I go to Phoenix. So that's a big relief. I don't want to have this kind of rough voice when I teach. It's pretty far though. It's gonna be pretty far. Yeah, it's one big travel. I mean, of course it's closer comparing to going back to Japan, but still it's quite far. And I don't like traveling. I really don't like leaving the house. Like, if I can do everything in this house, I don't even wanna. Just a second. It's not refocusing, right? Yeah, I don't want to even leave the house. Like, if I don't have to leave the house at all, I really don't want to leave. I'm extremely introvert. So every time I have those workshops, like business trip, I have to have like at least 1 week of complete inward moment, like completely inward. So I'll be pretty extrovert when I'm in those teaching mode. After that, I have to be really quiet for like a week or so. That's why I don't think I can teach like, twice a month or so, which I have never done that before, but I don't think I can do that because I really need time between those. It helps if the folks doing the mixing has at least basic understanding both culture. Yes. Unfortunately, that is not like that basic itself is quite vague. So it's not really mixing. What I see is not really mixing. It's more like, so let's say that if I mix purple and red, I mean not purple, red and blue. If I mix blue and red, ideally it should look purple, right? That's the middle color. So by mixing two different colors, we can make the third color so-called purple. And I think that's the healthiest way to mix something different. Of course, we can kind of fluctuate that percentage or amount, and we can get like, reddish purple or bluish purple. But right now, what I see, it's analogy, so it's really kind of extreme. But what I see is that over painting. Let's say that Sashiko introduced in Japanese is blue, and then Sashiko introduced in English is red. That red is not mixing into, it's kind of over painting existing one, and sometimes we can see the blue as a dot, but big trend is over painting without mixing it. And I'm perfectly fine with mixing. And don't get me wrong, there are people who are trying to mix both. There are many people who are trying to make purple new color, but they are not as strong or fast or powerful, influential as the main trend. So it's again, it's very small amount of purple here and there. So yeah, it is very true that the mixing has to be done by those who understand both culture. Again, but at the same time, again, like this is like I keep saying that again and again because I cannot emphasize this one enough. When one is just enjoying mixing the colors, they don't have to worry about that. They can do whatever they want. If they decided to make like a very reddish or bluish purple, that's perfectly fine. If that became like almost looking like a red purple, that's their mix. That's perfectly fine. That's that's what they do as mixing. The issue happens when they start defining what purple is without looking at what purple really can be. In this context, they know what purple looks like. Because they know what purple looks like, they try to not to navigate because they don't have the other color much. They have only one color and a little bit of other color. They don't have enough color to make even. as the result, they try to make the new color. And they can make new color, but they cannot. They shouldn't teach what it is. It comes with a responsibility. Teaching comes with a big, big responsibility. And if one is not committed to take the responsibility to change that culture, then they shouldn't be teaching. Well, if I say they shouldn't be teaching, many people misunderstand. So I'm going to re-clarify here again. But there are two kinds of teaching. One is like being a guide. School teacher is one of those. They teach a variety of things so that students, learners can enjoy many, many variations. So their goal is to expand their possibilities, widen their choices, more like being a guide. And if one is teaching Sashiko from that perspective to expand students' interest, to expand the quilting or textile industries, I'm perfectly fine with that, and I even want to encourage them to do it. So I'm not talking about that kind of teaching. What I'm talking about teaching, when I talk about teaching being sort of accused for that, is the teaching as a professional, which is more like a college professor, university professor. They are not really the guide of new possibility. They very much focus on one thing, and those who chose what their expertise wanted to be, they approach to that professor or expert. I always use this analogy, but wouldn't it be kind of very sad, if not even sad, it does not make sense that if math professor cannot do the calculus. I mean, they have their own field. So, some people may be good at statistics, some people may be good at, other crazy formulas. I don't know, but some people may be good at the algorithm. But I believe in order to get like those degrees, calculus is something that they all have to go through. That's what we call as a basic. So as long as they're teaching as the guide, I have no problem. But when they teach that as the master or defining the answer of what it is, then it is a problem, and that's what I'm fighting against. That's what I'm trying to change. That's what I'm trying to, pull people away from that. I agree, the colors are slapped together without any intent to do other than to come up with something new. Yeah, so it's difficult. It's challenging. But, there's no other way than it might take forever, but that's what I gotta do. I mean, do I enjoy doing this? I don't know. I enjoy doing Sashiko, but I don't know if I enjoy this speaking up part. I'm not made for this, so it's really not the strength I have. But at the same time, it may sound a little arrogant, but if I don't do that, it's gonna get worse. It's very, very niche field that not many people speaks English in this field, like from Japanese side. First of all, there are not that much populations to doing that in Japan. And second, the English is not part of their life for that matter. So it's a really big miracle that I speak English. If I were a really obedient child, if I were a good boy, I wouldn't be speaking English right now. So gosh, my voice is again gone. I hope that my talking is not that rough. Obedience is overrated. Obedience. Obedience? So obedience, I understand, is okay. So this is what it is. Obedience it is. Oh, obedience. Being a good boy. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Overrated? I was not obedient. I was initially very obedient, but then I got really, well, relatively, I think I was obedient, but I don't know, but I kind of, it's very contradicting, but I want my daughter to be obedient a little bit more, if that's the possibility. I probably shouldn't say those things, but Japanese are very good at that. We are very well trained to be obedient. There is a saying, well-behaved woman rarely makes history. That's pretty powerful. Well-behaved women rarely make history. Wow. That's probably true too. I think my point is that um, it does sound really contradicting, but if I were to have a choice, I probably prefer being obedient. It's my preference, but I don't like to kind of, as much as I try to be difficult on the internet, or I am being very, very difficult on the internet or emails. I hope you don't find me difficult on this live streaming, but I am trying to be very, very difficult on the internet because it's the internet. You never know where it happen, but I don't like the dispute, fight, or those like even tiny discomfort. So if I can kind of avoid that by me being obedient, I would choose that. But again, that's not probably what it is. Obedience is easy for adults because we want kids to not to make mistakes and have regret. Yeah, it's very true. Having good manner is also different than just doing what you're told all the time. Having a good manner is pretty much different. Yeah, I understand that. Oops, I think my daughter is having a little bit of problem. So I'm gonna be just off for a few minutes, just a second. Sorry, I gotta go a little bit. My daughter is getting sick, so I will cut this live streaming here right now. I'm sorry, I have to go and take care of my daughter for now. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut it off. Have a good night. Sorry, bye bye.